Welcome to TOOKY'S Sidebar, a book club for Nordic demonologists. I'm David.
I'm Gabe, the official 1970s Bush inspector.
And I'm Capitalissimo, and I'm just here for all of the synth and prog.
Oh my god, there's a lot of it coming. And we're back again after a very short, tasteful break, as some might describe it, from reviewing fiction. We're back with Shagduk by J.B. Jackson, published by Pylon Press. This was the winner of our August Top Tugger vote, our plebiscite that was held, and then we even invited some degenerates on Twitter to participate in an honorary, purely in true democratic fashion as a show of their feelings.
The super delegates got to choose, and then we also put it to the public so that they could feel that they had something riding on this. And it just so happens that the same one was victorious. So,
yeah, shockingly victorious. I didn't know how hungry people were for Shagduk.
They had a yearning for that Shagduki.
Yeah, everyone wants a good 70s shagging. And this is part 2 of our demonic duology, of course. The first part being Give Up the Ghost by PCM Christ. Weird crossover. I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys. Pylon Press. I recently did a digest episode, like a little one-off interview with someone named Jeffro Johnson, who is also published by Pylon Press. I didn't realize this till after, we started the interview.
Are we just Pylon Press shills now? Did we accidentally into that?
Yeah, for the last month, apparently. I'm waiting for the check to clear, but they have an interesting vibe, and there's some kind of D&D, because Jeffro Johnson's a Dungeons and Dragons guru. He has a lot of thoughts about, he's like an OSR guy. People can listen to that episode if they're curious, but very interesting. They seem to be doing cool stuff, and they seem to have high quality stuff they're putting out. So anyway, for anyone that clicked on this looking for a review, is considering buying the book, we always do a short spoiler free section at the start, so you can listen to that, get our initial impressions. We'll go into detail and more spoiler stuff later. So I've been yammering for a minute, so I don't know if you guys would like to just kick it off. We can dive right into generalities of, what is Shagduk, and what are your initial impressions that you you're comfortable sharing with someone that's just looking for that mile high view.
Cap?
Yeah, so Shagduk is long-time listeners will be relieved to hear an epistolary novel. It's an epistolary novel. It is a fictional diary. Yep.
Yeah, it's not even a Neo one. It's actually with paper and everything. It's actually a journal. So It's not email at all.
Yep, it's not even that. It is so it is a diary, sort of like the at the beginning of it, it references other famous diaries, like the Diary of Samuel Pepys, for example. Gives us a great insight into the day-to-day life of England during his lifetime, and this gives us a great insight into into life in Texas in the 70s. If you were a burnout, fucking slightly autistic librarian, an absolute linguistic polymathic genius who cannot get his dick wet to save his life unless he's being sexually assaulted by a witch. It follows Stephen Miller, who is a librarian at a university library that has an outrageous amount of esoteric texts and indeed magical texts in it. And he is also in a band which takes and his sort of day-to-day dealings with his bandmates take equal footing with his let's say occult aspirations and encounters. So that is Shagduk in a nutshell.
Yeah, very tightly fitted and concise nutshell, which is the opposite of the actual book itself. Reference to our other duology, the Nutshell duology, starring Incel and Lord Baltic. But
You've been here too long, Gabe.
I know. I speak in inner lingo, like inside jokes now. But I'll concur with that. Except he is. I would not say he does not go. Steven is not a fake cell. He is. He is a fake cell. He's not a sensitive young man. He's a proto-redditor. One. So I would not grant him the ranks of incel. And the structure of the novel, much like what Cap said, that's kind of its best representation of the book. My feeling of it is this is a kind of like a novelist in a sense, where it's very, very... the author himself has a lot of bibliomania, basically. Like, from page 1, it's just filled with references to other books, and it's page to page is filled with literary references. It's references upon references upon references. Like Cap said, it's literally references to multiple journals and diaries, and it starts as a very bibliomania's dream novel, and then it goes into him being like his band, and then watching TV at home, and the pacing. I think actually, Cap, what's your thoughts on this pacing? By the way, of this book, because me and Dave have very similar thoughts on the pacing.
I think that are you guys talking without me? Are you having meetings without Capitalissimo present?
Yeah, before Slop Kings, for anyone listening to that, we and Gabe were conspiring.
Well, one day Gabe and I will do an episode without you, and then we'll see how you like it. Every year we get a duo episode. Yeah, there are excellent catalogs of various esoteric books. That, I mean, right down to like little Manly P. Hall, secret societies of all ages and countries, referencing printings that actually existed and would have been available at the time, as well as I mentioned in the intro, lists of both music. Albums that came out, many that are well known and some that are more obscure, and audio equipment. So if you are an audio equipment nerd, this is going to really tongue punch your fart box, if you know what I mean. I should have said tongue punch your talk box. I really left that one on the table. But yeah, I mean, there are even conversations about like the correct pronunciation of Moog and things like that. So you're kind of getting into it in terms of the insider lingo.
Yeah, the linguistic puns are like some of the best parts of this book. Like there's one book, part of the book where the head mistress of the library gets a bunch of Roman coins and gets a letter in Latin from some random, apparently hyper-educated historian bros. And the protagonist comes in, he reads the letter, and it basically says "suck my dick" or something along those lines. It's a horny post to this woman, and the coins are literally brothel coins from Rome. The whole thing is literally a sex prank on the protagonist. The whole point is it's a sex prank and a linguistic joke at the same time. Like that's the level of like esoteric horny nerdism inside this text.
On the flow of it, like for anyone that's looking at it, I think that was my biggest surprise in terms of just what to expect, because I had what I initially thought the book was about, and then I actually read the blurb, then I thought I knew what, and saw the cover. I thought I knew what I was getting, then I actually read it, and I think I would argue this is, well, at least the first portion. I think it turns something else later, but the first like 50 to 100 pages, I think it's more of like a slice of life than anything. Like it's a lot more vibing in the 70s and just really getting to know this character well. He's a fairly unlikable in some cases protagonist, sometimes likable, but
definitely not an
very
aspirational protagonist.
Yeah, he's kind of a doofus and a nerd and kind of a prick sometimes. He gets in his feelings and he belches at waiters to try and impress his date.
Yeah, he gets less likable as the novel goes on, actually, which is a weird occurrence. It doesn't happen too often in novels, but he does get less likable as the time progresses.
Mm-hmm. There's some interesting stuff. Like I would say, if I had to compare this to other stuff that we've done, I would probably compare it to Incel by Eric Hahn, in that it is an extremely specific but very, very well executed and in some ways challenging writing style that I could see some people bouncing off of, but those that enjoy it just loving every minute of it. Because I had times where I was like loving every minute of it, and then I had times where the pacing, which I'm sure will come up more, is just so slow, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like it just feels like we're spinning our wheels, and it's turning into more of a slice of life. And whereas I expected more supernatural, excitement and drama, or even just sex to occur with all the teasing our protagonist gets.
The bluest
so,
balls.
Brutal.
It's his own.
Blue
It's his own
balls.
goddamn fault. Virtually all the time. Assuming, and I guess maybe I'm being presumptuous here that he is a generally reliable narrator, from his own perspective at least. It does seem like he's being put in situations where that type of attention might have been welcomed, but he just fails to act on it, like through generally cowardice or sometimes implied obliviousness.
One other thing with the writing style I found interesting, like he does some interesting stuff. Like one, like the pacing, which is almost like a reflection of, I guess you could say it's like a maximalist, like fitting the style of, not every day something's going to happen, right? Some days you just watch a movie and eat a TV dinner. And that's the end of the day, and that's what's in the thing. Grant, none of them are that short. They're always each entry in the journal is sort of a flash fiction or a short story almost unto itself that fits within the narrative. But then there's some other things like because you're in his point of view, there's assumed knowledge you have of certain things, which sometimes is executed really well. The character names I found a little challenging, like all the nicknames, which was done very cleverly to give you context, because he doesn't describe people in detail, right? Because it's his journal. That's like a gap in epistolary. Yep. But you can describe someone as like a stone fox or something, for example, and it gives you
BPD girl.
Context.
The girl with the
BPD
bruised titties, or the
Oh, that's a whole
And like, well, the thing with it, you said it's a slice of life. It's like 90% slice of life. Like the structure of the book is, well, one, I said this earlier before recording, the cover is misleading. You barely see that imp. Shagduk is basically Orson Welles is the third man. He doesn't come up until like the last third of the film.
Mm-hmm.
It begins, like I said, strongly. It comes with a lot of flavor and personality. The main conceit, the main plot, I could concede it or concisely discuss it. Basically, is he works in a library called Pretentious, and this is the level of puns. Like JB's very good with like literary puns. He works in a library called Portius. Now, Portius is an old Latin word meaning doorway or to be carried through a door or a gate. And it also means a portable breviary, or a breviary. A breviary is another old Latin word for a book of hymns or a book of prayers. So it's almost a triple pun, because it's a whole library. It's a sacred text, that kind of thing. The magical aspect, and also my doorway, my gateway, which is a spoiler for what happens to another character throughout the story. So, and he's the apprentice or pseudo apprentice of a professor known as Sherwood. And Sherwood comes off as very classical Anglo explorer type. He's part of these secret societies. He's obsessed with these ancient worlds, and he's a Hyperborean. He's one of the schizo scholars that belongs to these schizo scholar cliques that believe in Hyperborea and Agartha and Lemuria, the place between Australia and America. Lemuria never gets mentioned anymore.
He's also, I mean, the additional mythology that is introduced in Shagduk, that is part of the world that it occurs in, because I guess we should also mention this book is itself the first act of a planned trilogy, of which I
thought it was a 5-part series. Is it 3?
It's 5 parts. I remember from his interview, he said 5 books.
Oh, well, I was mistaken. It is in any case the first part of an ongoing series. I'm like halfway through the second book, actually, as we record this. So
Ursula of
yes,
right? I think
Ursula
that's
of Yes,
the girl with the butterfly tattoo above her bush.
Don't Okay. All right. I guess we're in full bush. Full.
Oh, is that a
spoilers.
spoiler? Does that count as a spoiler?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're saying you're seeing people's
it's
bushes and you're
revealed
saying
quickly, but yes.
I'm sorry for such a contentious spoiler.
Okay, whatever. All right, whatever. Keep going. We'll do full spoilers in a minute.
Yeah, but pop off cap. Continue what you're saying.
Yeah, please finish.
Yeah, there's a whole mythology introduced that sort of is like, hey, you've heard of Agartha, but what about interdimensional Agartha? So it's just you take all of the like, oh, Atlantis, everyone's heard of that. Lemuria, everyone's heard of that. Hyperborea, Agartha, child's play. Now, let me tell you about the real shit. So
this is the real esoteric shit. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of what we're working with. Everything is true, right? All of the esotericism is true, but there's also some other stuff on top of it.
No, it's deeply interesting, and the thing is, Sherwood kind of ends up through omission being the most interesting character in this book. To be honest with you, and the beginning scene is very cozy. It's I believe it is a celebrate. I forget what they were celebrating, but it's
New Year's.
New Year's. It was a New Year's party.
Yeah.
And you can tell there's a lot of flavor in there. There's a lot of personality. It's very much a character story. And Stephen is introduced as very much as a scholarly figure. You know, he can't really talk to people properly. You know, everyone's the parties.
He throws a shitty party.
Extremely shitty party. Everyone's watching the Canadian orchestra singing, and he's like, man, the party's already over, but he doesn't want to say the party's over. So he starts popping balloons, hoping people get the hint.
Honestly, alpha male move. You know, maybe we have the wrong read on Steven.
And the humor starts off very strong.
The Giga Chad.
I really love.
Just pouting in the corner, popping balloons.
I can already see the meme. Oh no, and the soy jack and the woe jack is the balloon. Giga Chad's holding the needle, and the soy jack is the soy jack.
The soy jack Shagduk at the end. Don't you heckin' learn those Nordic words? Not my heckin' Dortorino.
No. But it starts off extremely strong. A lot of personality. I love the beginning of it quite a bit, and you can see the intention between Sherwood and the protagonist. They have a relationship. They have banter. It says what's very intriguing. And he even lampshades the whole book by saying, "Well, you know, I expect my diaries not to be as interesting as he cites two journals. The journal of the first British man to go to Antarctica, I believe, is one of them.
Yeah,
and he cites another one. I can't remember.
I believe it's Shackleton.
And these are interesting. And these are deep cuts. These are when I was reading. I read this as a digital PDF. So every time he referenced something, I would right click and I would go deep into the references. I don't think this counts as a spoiler. I do have an example if y'all don't mind. Y'all might ever recite it. Okay.
Hit me.
I have a beautiful screenshot. So this is an example of both the humor and the bibliomania of this text. All right. So swung by Roy Pope on the way home for a 6-pack of Pib. For non-Texans, Mr. Pibb or Pib is a local cola. It's quite delicious, better than Dr. Pepper. A big-tittied slave girl caught my eye from a circular rack of yellow-spined paperbacks by the register. She knelt before a swashbuckler who twisted her arm cruelly, opened to a random page, but stopped reading after the 8th occurrence of the word master. What kind of culture produces such work? All I went in there for was the Pib, but ended up buying some Stupuff, a cat toy, and a couple of other sundries, and Rogue of Sularia. That'll be $14.76, said the young cashier, opening my paperback in amusement. She blew 3 bubbles simultaneously, which popped in rapid succession. Resisted the urge to ask how she did that. A very good year, I said, for William Caxton. So much for Randy's 20. The cashier stared at me blankly. Whatever, she said. So that's an example of both the mood and the theme. He's a horn dog. He's reading Big Titty Slave Girl, like Princess of Mars type shit. And his interactions with women or exactly like this all the time. Like, he will be saying Hawthorne to himself, like Nathaniel Hawthorne in the library, and he starts to scare the host because he's trying to say it in a British accent, and women are staring at him because he's like talking to himself. But he reads the situation like, oh, they're mocking me because they know that Nathaniel Hawthorne obviously was not English. He was obviously American. But no, they're just seeing this weird incel talking to himself, repeating Hawthorne over and over again. He continuously misreads women constantly. This is an example of the humor. And so that's the base joke of him being an awkward incel around women. But the meta joke is that actually, hold on, let me get the screenshot again. 1476 was when William Caxton was the first publisher in England. The first printing press was made in 1476 by William Caxton. So the amount of money he paid was actually an inside joke. It's an Easter egg joke, basically, to the first printing press in England. And it's filled with a bunch of this. The name of the library, multiple references to journals. He does it with music, too. The Stephen Miller Band, Portonymous. If y'all remember that lyric from The Joker, I'm a midnight. Remember that song? Are y'all big 70s buffs? What's his name? Portonymous? That one lyric that everyone loves from the Stephen Miller Band. Like, he makes a joke about that. And one time in the other piece of the novel, he's like, that meme where the guy's screaming in the girl's ear at a party? Like, him and his friend who actually gets laid are talking to this one girl, and there's the guy on stage is singing American Pie, and he's literally doing the meme where he's like, so media literacy?
Explaining
American Pie to
the
her?
story.
So it's filled with this hyper meta Easter egg reference humor. Like, for example, this. And I loved this at first. I really liked it. Like, oh my God. It was like I was like, what's the whole point of who's William Caxton? Even I didn't know who William Caxton was. I'm like, oh, the whole point of him paying $14.76 was so he can get a date joke about an English monk / scholar. I'm like, okay, that's pretty baller. I personally like that kind of humor and stuff. And he does not only for like bibliomania or history, he does that with music. He loves making references to multiple music, Soylent Green, old vintage films from the 70s. He made sure to make everything very, very historically accurate. And there's almost nothing that comes. The hard date is 1977, I believe. This is when the book canonically takes place, is 1977. And everything he references is up to 1977 or pre-1977. The only thing that breaks canon is that there is a reference of MK Ultra at one point. So I don't know how much people were aware of MK Ultra in 1977. That's the only thing that kind of breaks continuity, is the MK Ultra reference.
That is a good question. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure when that entered the conspiracist zeitgeist. So since you are bringing it up, and you already mentioned Rogue of Siluria, so you did note that Rogue of Siluria is not a real novel, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so I mean, and it's clearly describing a gore-esque kind of thing. Not that John. I'm always going to point out gore when I see it. But not that John Norman is the only one writing like big-titted slave girl fiction, but I can't help but feel that Rogue of Siluria is going to come into play in subsequent novels, since it is referenced multiple times in this novel, despite not existing. Now, it's possible. It's possible, of course, that this is some sort of, left-handed reference to, maybe a novel that exists in the fiction that, our author J.B. Jackson enjoys. Maybe it's, since Pilum is clearly run through with D&D heads and general RPG fans. Yeah,
there's like a campaign of a similar name that we just don't know about.
And it could be an item like, it could be a reference to something or other from that world. So that I'm not
That's
picking up.
That's a great theory, though.
But
yeah, if book 3 is Steven's transported to Gore, not Gore for legal reasons.
Please be,
I might lose my mind.
Book 3, please be Rogue of Siluria.
Jess in chains. Finally, he gets to whip her. Fuck yeah!
The slave girl arc.
She'd love it. She'd love it, bros. He could still save her. All right, I want to do like, because we're kind of like getting more into spoilers, so like let's just put a cap on the spoiler free stuff. I guess any like last summaries I would just put out for someone debating picking it up. I think it got most of it. I think Gabe, you just summarized well, like in terms of the the specificity. I always throw that word around the past. This one, like, it veers a little closer to me being the Homer Simpson with the demon. You like donuts?
Oh, yeah.
Like specificity. And he's talking about fucking every snack food that only existed in 1977 in Texas.
Stay Puft still exists.
Yeah, but it's very cool. Yeah. I guess I would just, in terms of like a really brief summary with someone just wants like the elevator pitch from us. Really cool, an extreme writing style in terms of like a slice of life. Eventually, it turns into something else. I don't want to give away my bit, but it turns into something very different around the midway, a little more romantic leaning and a little more magic. But it's a slow burn in that way. And then the fact it's a 5-part series, I'm like, damn, he's really talking about retention. This man is really saving the goods. But every chapter and every line there's a lot of love poured into it, and you can it's very clear that there's a lot of attention to craft there. So
yeah,
that's my pitch in terms of this. Like, that's a very specific style, but extremely well done.
Very, very heavily layered, unique writing. That really, I mean, it definitely shows off the author's particular special interests. So that's always something that I enjoy seeing, because
some would say to an autistic degree.
You would think that this book would be very difficult for a different person to write, which is always a complimentary thing to say about a novel, in my opinion.
Gabe, you have any Cole insults to throw before we move on?
Cole,
you want to call him a cunt for no reason?
Yeah. Say, this is Cole. Just a crumb of coal this time.
No, listen, the last time I called a book Cole was a term of endearment. It's an Appalachian term of endearment, all right? I was trying to make something unique to a specific region. But no, I would not say this is Cole. This is a boomer, sanctimoniously masturbating about how great the 1970s was in a lot of ways. I mean, it's the cover is straight up misleading. I really liked it. It had me for a very, very long time. And like y'all know me, I don't give a damn about pacing. I like a breezy novel. This is a very, very breezy novel.
I don't know if I would say it's breezy.
What I mean by that is
it's
lacks
slow.
tension. Lacks tension, I'd say. There's no sense of forward.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like calling it breezy would really communicate that it lacks tension.
Well, breezy is like there's no sense of like, there's no time limit. There's no end of the world. You know what I mean? There's no Gehenna coming up at any time. Not really. But when I said breezy, I mean, it's like, he comes back to the library every night, watches TV. Shagduk is drooling on his forehead, and he comes back home, watches TV the next day. That kind of thing. There's no climax until very much later on in the novel. I had me for a very long time. It depends how much you like Stephen. This is a make it or break it. If you can like Stephen and you get all of his esoteric run, Cap said this is very much a J.B. Jackson novel. J.B. Jackson has 3 interests, right? Being horny,
based,
being
horny,
like me. 1970s prog rock, 1970s pulp culture, and maybe 3.5 like D&D magic systems. And if you have the same like 2 out of 3 of those interests, or 2 out of 3.5, this novel will carry you. If you only have 1 or less of those shared interests, this novel will turn you off, I'd say. So if you like 2 or more of those things,
I disagree with your list in several places, but I don't think that. I think that you definitely will very much enjoy it if you have any of those if you have any overlapping interests. But I think that there is something here for it's unique enough that people who don't know anything about 70s music and don't know anything about esoterica, could like really consider this a bibliography of unique interest.
True. Okay, well, I guess you could say another interest of his is for really esoteric, deep-cut references. This is an Easter egg novel. This is filled with historical Easter eggs, musical Easter eggs. He just loves having deep-cut references. It's built into his humor. Half of the humor of his friends is literally him, like the etymology of the Germanic or of like Latin words. What I said earlier about the Roman brothels or Latin brothels. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, two guys playing pickleball, making Latin jokes at each other. If that appeals to you, you're right at home. I do wish if I had one David cut edit, I could have made it would have been to like cut half of the band shit. I was a little sick of the band and the deep band stuff. But partly it's because I'm not into that. Like I did see an interview he did with some guys that had been in a band, and for them it was speaking to them because like that's like every band has had this experience, that experience. But yeah, word cells miss out on that.
But that's exactly right. And there's so much deep cut references to band stuff and music and stuff like that. And the word I was looking for was pompatus, the pompatus of love.
Yeah,
because his teammate, his bandmate Tim, calls him to ladies and gentlemen, to pompatus of love, and that's a reference to the Stephen Miller Band, to the Joker.
I'm a smoker, midnight toker, etc.
Exactly, right? Which is a deep cut reference to that song. And like, because he can't play the trombone properly. Because the humor works very much at the first arc because he doesn't know how to play the trombone worth a damn. And a lot of his physical comedy, because like, he's very jealous of his bandmate Tim. He gets all the pussy. A woman in the crowd gives him a beer or buys him a beer. He thinks it's for him, but the bar was so loud it was actually for Tim the whole time. Stuff like that. It's him constantly getting cucked by guys who are more chatly than him, right? And that's a lot of the humor, a lot of the deep cut references. So that's what my point was. It's the same thing with Dave in a lot of ways. He puts in everything in the kitchen sink of his interest: esoterica, band life, fantasy or D&D style fantasy, office life of him in the library. We'll get this more in detail of the initial inciting incident, or what should have been the initial inciting incident. But we'll get that after the spoiler ends. So that was my critique was that it's everything in the kitchen sink of his interests, and I don't think it was portioned out correctly, at least for this audience. For me, I don't. And again, I'm very, very tolerant with pacing and not being caring about the plot. But even for me, I thought, dude, okay, this is your 5th time going to the same bar wearing skinny jeans, and like 18th time coming home to watch an 18th dinner and noticing Sophia Loren in the Dawn of the Night Owl in 1945 about the Normandy beach invasion. Like, I get the Soylent Green references, dude. So even for me,
there was a lot of Soylent Green references.
There were a few. Feels like that's going to pay off later in some horrible way, but yeah.
Yeah, the cat food is made of people or something. And we can let's just say spoilers from now on, because, why not? Fuck you. Read the book if you want to read it.
Read the book, asshole.
I was going to say, to cap it, I think it's actually a good point, because we're talking about references and this book being nothing, or a lot of it being about his special interest. I would like to bring up patron saint of the show, Tim Kaine, creator of Fallout, and he had a special rule with Fallout. No, the base Tim Kaine, not the woke Tim Kaine. Not
the based right wing gay, or what was?
Oh no, founding stock. Actually, he actually his ancestors were on the Mayflower.
There's no such thing as founding stock gay, because they can't breed.
Yeah.
Well, a foundational founding stock homosexual. All right, that's Tim Kaine. And he had a special rule of Fallout 1 with all the random encounters. He's like, listen, if you're going to have a joke be a reference to pulp culture, it has to work by itself. It has to work without prior knowledge. And this is in deep contrast with Fallout 2, where you have a random encounter where a random NPC named after Bulb Dole 4477 on the Interplay forum gets killed to death by the development team, right? And it's a whole inside joke based on the Interplay forums from 1998 or something like that. These super deep cut references in Fallout 2, or like the famous Silence of the Lamb, fava beams and a calm Chianti from the
Wow, how did you try again, bud?
I know it's fava beams and a Chianti. It's a
nice
alcohol.
Chianti.
A Chianti, thank you.
Chianti.
A nice Chianti.
Yeah.
A nice Chianti. I'm not a film guy. I'm a literature bro.
Yeah.
I'm a lit bro. I'm right. But So if you have Fallout 2 references that are a lot like that, where the humor, if you haven't seen that film, if you weren't on the Interplay forum boards and you didn't know that Dole 4488 was an absolute dick on that forum board, you would not get that random encounter joke. So my contention with this novel is I like this kind of thing. I read this as a digital PDF. So every time I could tell there's a reference, like the William Caxton thing, I'll right-click it, and I can go Wikipedia hunting and learn this new information. I get the joke, right? And the joke works and that way. But as, for example, Cap read this on paperback. So from my understanding, I would actually like to ask Cap this. Cap, how did you feel having to dig some of the deep cut references or deep cut jokes you didn't get on the first hand?
I was like 80% good. But the ones that I didn't like, I did not know Caxton, for example, and I did look him up, and that was great because then I got to rabbit hole that. It took me a while to get through this, specifically because of having to not having to, but going down a rabbit hole whenever I got what was essentially a throwaway reference. So
yeah, but it's
I
a lot of fun
enjoyed
going
that
down
quality
rabbit hole,
actually.
Me too. I liked it a lot, but especially as a PDF reader in this case, I quite enjoyed doing that a lot. It's just the problem is it never, for me it got tedious, especially with the band stuff. Yet again, this is the problem when you don't share necessarily interest. It's like, dude, I'm trying to finish this book. I want to just get to the action, get to the magical thing at this point.
I was just about to bring the bands as like, because the bands went a lot of those specifically went over my head, and I was like, I'm not looking this shit up, and so. Just like, okay, I'm just gonna keep going, and it is.
I mean, a lot of them are
the
pop
Tim
music
Kaine
references.
reference is a good comparison. I mean, I don't have the off the top of my head that I remember, but it's just it's but it's just to Gabe's point, as if you're not in on the joke, then you're not in on the joke, and it's like, okay, so it's a little bit like Steven himself as a character, right? It's a little bit of a know-it-all quality of you're outside of it, and he's smuckling at you. Right.
Yeah, it's humor for humor's sake. If that's what I meant by it. It becomes very Reddit-y, I think, in a lot of ways. The humor, Stephen, degrades over time because if you're the humor to the hyper-referential humor, it's like, it's very clever. It is very clever. The linguistic stuff, I love that, but that's icing.
Well, in a lot of cases, he's not actually. In a lot of cases, the references. He's literally just being descriptive, right? So like he goes into like, Bonnie had her mini Moog stolen, right? And so they have to go get some more equipment, and she upgrades her synth, right? That's just, I mean, if you don't know what Moog is, then you might want to go look that up because it's super fascinating, very cool, very cool history for the company. But in any case, a lot of what you're calling hyper-referential is actually just him stating things in sort of a sequential thing as they pop into his head about his day. So he cares about the audio equipment, so he's mentioning the audio equipment. You don't have to necessarily know what the amp is to know that he's like, oh yeah, so we upgraded the amp and it has a button on it that says, it has a dial on it that says Mojo, and I'm not quite sure what it does, but it does make my sound feel a little punchier. You don't have to know anything about this piece of equipment.
But you don't know, to pull a Bob Dole, you don't know what you know. Was this
you don't know what you don't know.
Unknown. You don't know what you don't know in terms of, and again, I'm probably might sound critical here. I think this is extraordinarily well written and very good. So this is more just hashing out craft, just thinking through this. As a first-time reader, you don't know what you don't know, and so maybe that button as functionality is going to be important later, especially because this is such a broad, wandering approach to storytelling, right? And so it's like, shit, maybe I do need to look this up, or I don't know it, or maybe I really am missing out on something by not knowing this, information about the way this thing works. So using that button as a sort of the throwaway example for that.
Actually, that example I think takes place in Ursula of Ulm. So, sorry.
Okay. No, all good. Or, like, there's the button in the car, right?
Sure.
The Rambler has like a similar comparison.
The Rambler itself is a reference to, you know, a vehicle that no longer you could not get nowadays.
Which is a beautiful attention to detail, but my contention with it is it becomes very much a one-trick pony, where, yes, I love the references, these are very funny, but Steven is a dick, I don't necessarily like Steven, all the characters are kind of one note and thin, and the only interesting character dies and fucks off in the early half of it. We're finally getting off spoilers, by the way. And the thing is, the humor is that the pacing, the reason where the pacing gets so bad, he repeats the same kind of joke or hyper-referential joke. With all these people end up having the same personality. Like, my contention with, I believe, what was it called? From Millennium. I forget that story's name. But my problem with all the characters sound the same.
Soldiers.
They all sound the
You
same
mean in
eventually.
Holy Hunt?
But
Yeah.
Yeah, Holy Hunt, right? My contention, he'll be in with his bandmates, and they're talking about English as it's spoke, which is a Portuguese translation of French to Portuguese to English, right? So if you ask a girl for a blowjob, it's like, crack my skull, bitch, or something like that. And it's all
you're the
about
one who
these
says crack
euphemisms.
the rat all the time, so I'm sure that's some sort of weird Croatian thing.
It's a regional dialect. It's a regional dialectical joke. Right, so he'll be doing it with his bandmates. Like, oh, here I am, and all the bandmates are into it. By the way, the jock character Tim, who's just into the music, all these bandmates who happen to be interested into 18th century mistranslation of English idioms. They all find it very funny, the mistranslated sex jokes of English from 18th century. Then, either a chapter after that or 2 chapters after that, almost immediately upon that chapter, he will repeat that same style of joke. He will repeat that same style of a joke with his library friends at the library, except it's a translation of James Boswell's friend of English slang from the 19th century, right? Which it's all about making fun and all these sex jokes from just straight up English slang at the time with his library friends, not with his bandmates. So he repeats the same kind of joke, which is LOL, sex jokes from the 18th century, with the 2 different kinds of people, the bandmates and the library friends. But they blend into the same style, sense of humor, the same joke, the same kind of joke. Steven's humor basically becomes a memeplex to every other person he interacts with. And it becomes basically recycled, basically. And it suffers, and I think it's a deeper burden for the plot. Like, even my ass, who liked this hyper-referential humor, I'm like, dude, you repeated the same joke twice with these 2 different groups of people. They all just kind of blend into like a hyper-referential Joss Whedon Reddit character at this point. And there's,
I think that's unfair. When I think of a misuse of references in a way that is, that is Reddit, which, I would also like to point out as an aside that we have our own kind of thieves' cant here that we're using. We just did a throwaway reference to Holy Hunt from Marty Phillips's Millennium, which we covered on an earlier episode. But if this is the first time you are listening to the sidebar, we've got more than a year and a half's worth of back catalog that we're just going to talk about with each other because we know what we cover.
Normies,
right?
get off my street.
Read it or get the fuck out. You haven't read Millennium.
But what I think of when we are going for, when you're talking about a Reddit kind of use of reference, I think of Ernest Cline, like something that's literally just a fucking list of cringe ass shit from the 1980s that is made worse by its over reference and the like slavish fandom that exists in this poisonous way in the millennial soul, right? That is what I think of when you say there is when you say that you're getting Reddit to your referential. And I don't think that this is in that category even a little. right? I think
the quality of the references are very good. I think Gabe has a point about the way it tonally affects conversations, though, with the band specifically. But not everyone, though, Gabe, because like V, his one-on-one interactions with V are very unique, for example. And I can think of a few others.
She
She's
asked
also
for
a
a
polyglot
journal
bimbo.
of like of a Greek weeaboo, like a Lord Byron type. She's like, "Oh, do you have this one journal of this Lord Byron knockoff, by the way, which is a real book yet again?" And again, JB Jackson does do detailed references, but yeah, even
But isn't she a teacher?
I do think she's a teacher.
Yeah, no, she's a teacher. No, she's a
Yeah.
she's a slutty linguist.
Yeah.
Like,
But that's within her specific area. But in more other areas, I've
Yeah.
seen her their conversations were definitely at a lower level, to the point where like Steve actually felt like an idiot because he made some weird comment and he like sunk into the couch and he's like yelped out a nerdy comment as she like eyeballed him, like, what the fuck is he? I agree with you, like, insofar as like the references I think are of quality, but it is a repetitive like format. And with the band versus the library staff, I think I think you hit something key. There was like too much similarity there.
Yeah, it's the same style of joke, reading like a naughty pervert book from the 18th century, but with two different groups of people, and like in a very short time frame between chapters. And this is like middle of the book, and the main plot hook has not moved much at all.
No, and no one talks about fucking Sherwood being dead. It's like this afterthought.
Okay, we gotta explain. Okay, we gotta actually explain to the audience now about the main hook of the plot, the main actual plot mechanics. Now, the inciting incident. I think would we agree on this?
Yeah, just go for it. Yeah.
So after the
Yes.
New Year's party. So Sherwood is our classical Anglo adventurer type, the god king of esotericists, right? The Hyperborea's top scholar, basically. And I would say very early on in the novel, he dies, or he supposedly dies. He goes missing for a week or two. I think it's a week. Stephen stops by his house. He goes into his little bunker or his basement,
Little
outdoor
cellar
basement.
area, yeah.
Yeah, cellar. And he finds Sherwood's cane. It's broken. He has a very anime proto weeb cane that contains a katana inside it, or a Japanese style sword. And it's broken. And he finds these two books.
This goes in my theory, by the way. Just remember that fact because it's going to come up again from me for a fan theory.
Ooh, we're making fan theories now. I like it. But so he finds a German book, which it's translated to gate or gateway, I think, a German book, and the Dordica. I forget the full name of it. It's literally called the Dordica, Dordica, Dordica. De Re Dordica, thank you. Which is also the real title.
De Re Dordica.
Of the series and or book. And he takes
it's also the name
books,
of the series.
And he goes to his friend's house. I forget who works at the library.
Yeah,
he's like, "Hey,
bastard / is it Randy?
I think it is Randy, because Randy speaks better German than him, and he's much more deep cut than him, which pisses him off. It is Randy, and Randy's watching the Super Bowl, and this is how much JB Jackson cares about the inciting incident of the whole plot. Randy looks at him. He's like, "Dude, I'm middle of watching the game. Do you want to watch the game with me?" So the protagonist, Steven, is like, "Oh, okay, fine, fuck it." He starts watching the football game with him and complaining about the amount of buns he has in the plastic bag because he's running out of hot dog buns. Meanwhile, he just came into a murder scene for all he knows about Sherwood. All right, he sees his man's cane is broken. Apparently something happened to him. And his man's been missing for almost a whole ass week. He's getting missing letters, everything about this. And he stops to have a chill moment, complaining about hot dog buns and watching the Super Bowl with Randy. And that is the kind of basically how much of importance the inciting incident of the actual magic part. The demon goblin guy on the cover. That's how much of ranking of importance the author has for literally the inciting incident.
Yeah, he's gonna be just hanging out in the background for quite a while.
The ongoing presence of the imp, Shagduk, is very low key and not something that Stephen express. He will mention that he is feeling ragged, and that he is. He's not feeling great. It's stressing him out. but it also doesn't seem to materially affect his behavior in virtually any way, other than that he is in a fairly low-key fashion trying to figure out a way to recontain this imp throughout the book, and he puts together a bunch of like really half-assed traps, like literally a box propped up halfway with a stick.
And it just steals the
and
shit,
like a candy
it's
bar.
just like a little thief. It's so cute, actually. Like, you just steal stuff from his desk and his apartment.
It does want it. It does want the treats. You keep expecting V's cat to, get eaten or something. Cat's fucking fine. Like, nothing bad happens to the cat. They're not eating the cats.
Yeah, imps have higher standards than Haitians.
This takes place in Texas. So it is weird. Like Steven's lack of the lack of change in his behavior. Like, let's say, by way of example, I'm not saying this is a bad quality in this book, but if you were to do like a classic Weird Tales kind of Lovecraft kind of story where a person who is a researcher encounters the occult and discovers the fundamental shakiness of the reality they were previously used to, that person's behavior tends to go downhill rather quickly, and they tend to become crazy, or at least appear crazy to others. The behavior of Stephen Miller does not change enough. Does not change enough to communicate that, and so either he is an incredibly stoic constitution, or a little spurgy, or it's just not in him to be that actually worried.
Yeah, or to journal it, right? The epistolary format could be like he's masking his emotion, and he's not like putting it in the journal, even though you could say maybe you should read it through between the lines, possibly.
Sure, yeah. I mean, but it also like doesn't stop him from like going out and partying, and going to work in the morning.
Yeah, no, I would say he doesn't seem bothered. That was my read of it.
Insufficiently perturbed, and I saw this reference as a horror novel, and it's like I'm not getting the tension. I'm getting he accidentally released a small demon, but I'm not getting the tension. So
the vibes are good, but the
I like
space
the vibes.
between the main
I like
plot
the
points
vibes.
are just too far off, because it'll go library scene, magical incident, band scene, come home, watch TV, try to get laid with a girl, then another band scene, library scene.
I'd like the random movies, very
he
esoteric.
watches great episode
references.
of Gunsmoke on TV tonight.
He loves. I don't know. He's a horn dog. He memorizes every actress in every film he's watched. Oh, Sophia Loren is also in this. She started with Gregory Peck in this film too, and this background scenes from The Wife of Frankenstein. He pays attention only to the females.
Bro, Sophia Loren was a fucking smoke show.
She's absolutely mommy core.
Absolutely.
She's absolutely a med mommy for sure. But it goes from the TV dinner, library scene, reading some of the Magic Book of Randy, horny scene of a girl, then Shagduk literally drooling on his face in the middle of the night. Right? He wakes up, he sees Shagduk. He knows for a fact Shagduk is in his room, in his house. And then it goes right back to, I think it's either a band scene, library scene, and then he goes back to watching TV. Right, this is it's like a 5-set play. The Playhouse only had like a budget for 5 set pieces. Bar, library.
It could
house.
be that Shagduk is partially controlling his mind,
extent.
because that is a thing with the Dordic, right? Is it can like control you. So maybe that it's like influencing him in some way, so he can't journal about it to some extent. I don't think that's the case. I'm just trying to offer some defense to why it could be that way.
The thing is, once again, we do have to note that this is not the whole story.
First act.
Like it's a very interesting.
Enormous first act.
It's a very interesting first act. I mean, what happens in this novel in terms of like, other than, a bunch of day-to-day items, is that, Sherwood goes missing. Stephen releases Shagduk. He and the bastard discover magic is real. Or rather, he discovers magic is real, and it's heavily implied that the bastard knows significantly more than he was letting on. Stephen is hexed by a witch. Stephen successfully captures Shagduk, and that's the end. So that is essentially the real the overarching narrative that happens in here. And then there's a lot of like little character moments that happen with, Jenny the Stone Fox, his hot, like underage, apparently, co-worker at the library, who is completely BPD'd to the hilt. You cannot fix her. She's a problem. And his bitchy old boss Dixie, and the 11-year-old who also Isabel.
Wasn't that right? Nickname?
An A.
Go ahead.
Her name's
Go ahead.
A for some reason.
Who also. Well, and an 11-year-old girl who seems to be the most level-headed person who works at the circulation desk in the library, and Gudu, a figment of Stephen's imagination, basically, that he interprets as a coworker. Okay. So,
yeah, and also the little girl also dabs on him for being an atheist. There's several points in the novel.
Yeah, we have proto-redditor right there.
Oh yeah.
I think we got the initial things, then you gave the end there, Cap. I think you're missing the big middle, and I think you guys have missed on some of the essential clues. And you guys, I've seen you struggle trying to put this in a genre, but it's been right in front of your eyes the entire time. Let me recount our detectives. Get your little glasses out. Here's the clues.
Okay. All right. Help us out. Help us figure out.
We have a man entering an unknown space. He finds a Japanese blade. He finds a portal. Then he finds himself torn between a relationship between a tsundere, black beat up titty girl, Jenny, a slightly older girl, ditzy girl upstairs. This man has been isekai'd into a 70s harem fantasy, and he has to deal with a demon. It's an isekai.
Okay.
Shagduk is an isekai.
Okay.
A harem.
So yeah. Shagduk is an isekai, confirmed. I think you've been spending too much time on Royal Road.
But the girls, think of the dynamic. It turns into a harem.
Sherwood almost certainly has been isekai.
Yes,
by the way,
yes.
IMO. I look forward to his triumphant return. From the east at dawn.
Yeah, because even at the funeral, like they say, it is not quite right. They don't really have the there's nobody's seen the body, right? Like they're having it, but nobody's seen it.
No, there's no body.
Like the police said it showed up, but nobody's found it.
Yeah, the funeral scene was what pissed me off, by the way. That's what I 100% agree with you. This does come off as very isekai-esque, and for a fact J.B. Jackson has cranked it out to some classical isekai. Again, the man is a horn dog. And I mean it in a good way, but the horniness even turned to me in the funeral scene is the only horny scene in my life that made me feel cringe. How dare you? This is too goonery even for me. How is some self-respect?
Which one?
The funeral scene. Because at funeral scene, no one wants to speak up for Sherwood, because the people in the church pews assume Sherwood is dead, and does anyone have some kind words for Sherwood? Only Stephen offers to offer any words, and we have his internal monologue. He doesn't particularly care about Sherwood's death, not really, or his disappearance. He's too busy imagining a stone fox naked the entire time because he's too.
Yeah, he's like, how's this going to reflect on me?
Yeah,
my speech.
Yeah. And he's so meta aware. I'm like, oh, you never really gave a shit about Sherwood. Like that moments during the New Year's party, like, oh, you didn't give a shit about Sherwood. Like, oh, okay. Like, so that was what made me question Steven. Like, what do you actually care about other than watching TV every night, playing ZZ Top's Tush for the third time as a cover band, and like trying to get laid? And oh, poor you haven't gotten laid in a year. Poor fucking baby. Boomer complaining how your world is fucking Waterworld, while the everyday Zoomers is fucking Arrakis. To go full. It's true. It's true. This man's Kevin Costner in Waterworld.
And you fucking dare to accuse someone else of being Reddit.
Yes,
I fucking dare. Oh my god.
I am critiquing this book on its own terms. All right, thank you very much.
You are the pot calling the kettle the N-word. Like,
yes, I'm going down. I'm fighting fire for fire. I'm grokking this stone for all its watery worth. All right, that's my life. And Grok also makes a Reddit appearance in this.
Yeah. Also, do you know what grok means?
It's from Heinlein.
Yeah. But do you know what it means?
Yeah, it means to truly understand something.
Yeah. Okay.
From my understanding.
Yeah, it does. All right. It's just you used it in a way that implied that you did not understand that.
Well, because grokking, I will not get into the definition of grokking where it comes from. But the whole point of it is that, Steven is an extremely thin character. He's not a sensitive young guy. He's not a sensitive young man either. He comes up as a Redditor nice guy. Because when he's listening to one of the girls bitching about her life, he tries to solve the situation, and he says to himself, man, maybe I should listen to her as a person instead of trying to answer her problems. Maybe I should really listen to her and let her vibe or let her vent instead of trying to actually answer her questions.
And
maybe try to be a decent guy. Yeah.
He's very believable though. Like he's very consistent, and he's kind of a bit of a shithead.
Yes.
Selfish nerd, like know-it-all dork. Like that is the guy, and he's well depicted.
It's believable. He's jealous of Tim constantly. Mm-hmm. He just cares about getting laid. The Stone Fox is her tits are the 6th and 7th boobs he's ever seen in his life. He's seen an uneven amount of boobs, despite boobs coming.
There's so many tits whipped out
in
that
span. For real.
Yeah. No. Well, then the other chick shows her tits too. The roommate, like just whips them out. Like there's like a 50-page span. That's when I think of the 70s harem isekai. Like that's the segment where it's like, and like the mom makes him massage his feet. It gets like super horny for that section. I'm not complaining. Let's be clear. It was good stuff.
Especially that.
Oh, and the pissing.
The Ursula pissing when you see her butterfly above her bush. That was a good scene. I liked it. But there's some guy vomiting in the next stall, so it kills her mood. It doesn't kill his mood. Right? That was again. The scenes are great. And he dances in V's skinny jeans. They're playing ZZ Top's Tush, and he's so skinny he can wear V's skinny jeans that glow in the dark. The little brat tat on her skinny jeans, the butterflies on her ass cheeks, literally glow in the dark. So all the women are telling him to shake his tush while he's performing, right? And that stuff is great, but you gotta realize, oh man, Steven is actually a really, really shallow guy, where I don't give a fuck if he gets eaten by his gremlin or not. You know, he's just seeking to get laid. He doesn't care about Sherwood. I like Sherwood. The cover of it is fucking Shagduk, the imp, and he doesn't actually. He finally meets Shagduk when in the little hobbit hole in the library. Finally, he literally slams it to his face. Mm-hmm. That's not until over halfway, 60-70%.
I think it's like closer to 75%.
75%. But he finally literally slams face to face with Shagduk. At that point, I'm like, I don't care anymore. I don't care about it. Like I'm sick and tired when he's getting cucked by V. She shears him. The guy, V's boyfriend, literally calls him a faggot. He tries to talk to him.
Dude, he is cucking himself.
Like two other guys do. Yeah.
He is cucking himself. This is an unforced error.
And the thing is, he gets her panties, and the panties is German for slippery when wet, but he doesn't get the reference that it's obviously a sex joke. It's another linguistic sex joke. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I wonder. He hears them banging above his ceiling. He's like, I wonder who's the horse and who's the rider. Yeah, because in a classical German language, there's multiple puns to Germans. So it's also it's not only about slippery when wet. It's also, I think, if I recall correctly, it's also a German word for slippery when riding a horse. So it's about, who's the horse and who's the rider, right? So it's a double entendre joke. I'm like, I get it. It's very clever, but Is Steven autistic? Does he not know what sex is? We know he's had a girlfriend. He's seen over 7 nipples, and not including his own mother's breast. But he makes sure
I'm pretty sure he knew as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of times he likes to end it on a cutesy note, kind of to himself, which I think was good. It's like a funny way to kind of conclude it.
The smugness.
I mean, you could interpret that as cope.
Yeah, the coping gets annoying. It's like, who's the like? I get it's a clever reference. I like these clever references. Is there anything interesting about you other than the fact you're so clever, Stephen? Like the fact that you can name yourself after the Babylonian king when you order with Robert.
But again, that's not a negative on the book, though. You're seething at him as a character, which is understandable because I did find him annoying at times. But that's not a knock on Shagduk as a book.
Oh, I will have to concede that's true. It's just the problem when it's an epistolary, old school epistolary novel like this. You're seeing you're getting this information slowly through his eyes, through Stephen's eyes. With J.B. Jackson, it's the opposite problem, I'd say, of Give Up the Ghost, which is ironic because this is considered a duology. The narrating, the voice.
We're considering it a duology.
Well, we are considering it a duology.
Yeah, along with Nutcell, it's canon.
Like the problem, Remington was an interesting character, but the voice was very overbearing. I think we would all agree that to a certain degree. That the authorial voice was kind of overbearing at times. This is the opposite. The authorial voice, J.B. Jackson's very detail-oriented prose, and his love of Easter egg references and tying it in linguistics, and his genuine passion for that and detail-oriented writing carries the novel. The authorial voice carries the novel, but the protagonist hinders the novel. It's the polar opposite problem, I'd say.
Yeah, I think you convinced me. That's a great point in terms of even in terms of editing, Stephen has taken over and we get so much of Stephen. And it's like, you know what, maybe we could have trimmed or merged a few of these Stephen watching movies and going to band practice chapters and got
it does make it
less of
it does make it less of a diary if you have everything actually driving the plot forward.
But you already have dialogue. I mean, nobody writes in their diary with the full dialogue, tags and everything.
That's true.
So
that is
you're already
true.
There's a buy-in. But it is a trade-off. I completely agree. It's a trade-off, and he has a specific vision. So I don't want to be like, there's no wrong answer here.
There's a lot to like to this book,
and I also think that of course, because this is a planned series, and Stephen it's still Stephen's diary in the second book. So
I was hoping it would be hers.
It is not. Well, there are mixed perspectives. So there's some
praise the Lord.
Yeah, there are some other sequences in it, but the main body of it is still Stephen. Still Stephen's diary.
Which is fine. I do like Stephen as a character.
Yeah, also Gabe, again with the hypocrisy. You're complaining about not liking the protagonist kind of as a person first, rather than talking about the quality that it brings to the story. So no,
I'm not being moralist. I'm not being sanctimonious here. I don't care about the morality of Stephen.
I know you don't care about the morality. I'm just saying, you don't have to like him. So you don't have you can think that Stephen is a dick who needs to touch grass or get ass, as the case may be. It's just I think that's a secondary consideration. Not even actually secondary, tertiary, or at the most. So
true. That's true. So for you, Cap, you didn't find the pacing of the plot critical points. There's literally only 4 or 5 plot critical points, the actual conceding evidence, or the actual thing that pushes the plot forward. You don't think the pacing of literally plot critical points was a little too far off from each other?
Well, I mean, yeah, I would not go to say that. I'd say this thing is extremely this is a very slow build. I mean, I think that there are 5 points of significant importance to the actual narrative, but I don't think. Yeah, but it does go rather slowly. This is kind of a vibes based economy in this book.
Oh, do you think you could give someone Ursula of Ulm and just explain in under 30 seconds like the 5 points, and they would be okay?
Yeah. Stephen has a demon in a bottle. Diane is an ancient witch, and there is a missing professor and a magical language called Dordic. That's it. Go. They're in the 70s. Go.
Mm-hmm. And so does he crank up the fantasy? So it goes from low fantasy Shagduk. Does it go to like at least regular low fantasy in the second one?
We're still touring with the band, bro.
Oh God.
No.
It's another band episode. My God.
Shag Bros.
Are you guys are like the oh no, we've got another filler arc. I'm still gonna watch Naruto though. That's what you're.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
literally is.
This one's the harem. The next one is the arena.
Oh, the arena battle. Yes, battle of the arena battle of the bands.
The arena arc.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh no, a tournament arc. What are we gonna do?
Oh, that's it. That's the word I was looking for.
Tournament
arc. I was like, what's the anime ass term when you have these like arena battles and like every episode is like
it's a tournament arc. Yeah.
That would be. You could do something there, like a little Shagduk Pokemon battles.
But only he and the bastard would have one. V tries to bring her cat.
She's massacred.
Absolutely slaughtered.
The cat distracts Shagduk, and Randy wins.
Anyway, this novel, like, it plants a lot of seeds that I feel like are going to pay off in the subsequent books. For me, the overall setting and the prose, the execution of the prose, that is enough for me to have gone forward and gotten the second book. And I'm sure that in a year or whatever, however long it takes JB to come out with the third one, I'm sure that I will also read that one.
Is there at least more bush action? Is it more horny? Is it more viscerally horny? Is it White Man with Fangs horny? Is it visceral? Is it virile?
It is more. It is literally. It is more. Stephen is much more. Has much more agency. He is no longer getting raped repeatedly by Diane.
Thank God.
Yeah,
Steve Bros.
He is, although he is letting his, he does let his drummer bandmate get basically used like like Diane's succubus milking machine, which is kind of a shit move on Steven's part, like not saving his friend.
Wait, the drummer gets milked to death?
He hasn't died, but he is definitely getting milked by Diane.
This is definitely gore accelerationist core.
Yes. Diane is not the Kajira in Ursula of Ulm. I mean, Diane is Ursula, of course, which is revealed in the first novel by Stephen's own inference. So.
Yeah, and the thing is, the stuff of Ursula is really good, and and there's a lot. I do love the general vibe of the book. It pushes the patience too much, and if he maybe slow burned Shagduk drooling on his face and confirming the existence of because Shagduk is confirmed actually pretty early on in the text. That's the issue. If you rearrange the pieces, like you get the set pieces, if you even pushed back the reveal Shagduk even longer, I'd say, or did even more of a slow burn.
So you want the Reader's Digest version?
What do you mean, Reader's Digest?
You want the abridged version. You want the version of Shagduk that is that's like a 50-page short. Like, you want the novella.
the thing is, I like a chunky novel. And again, it's also a difference between Give Up the Ghost and this. Give Up the Ghost could have used more of Remington's version of going to a bar or going to do band club, shooting with Boss, or going to the diner with what's her name, his twin girlfriend, stuff like this. And this has the opposite problem: too much plot, too much getting to the point in Give Up the Ghost, not enough getting to the point in Shagduk. And I like the aspects of it. It's like the problem between. Also, another good example is Friday Nightmare on Elm Street 1 versus 2. Nightmare on Elm Street 1, the girl actually is trying to. She gives up. She really does Home Alone traps for Freddy Krueger. Like the whole coffee pot, everything. She's actually on point. And Friday A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, it's a gay allegory the entire time. Our protagonist does not give a single fuck. He's too busy trying not to get molested by his gym teacher. Freddy's like basically his like inner demon of his homosexuality. Like that's basically, except obviously, the imp is not as horny or as funny as Freddy. But the point still stands kind of. The magical stuff takes a back seat. This is again low fantasy. And I guess you could say also it's a session 0. It's like when you play an RPG. Like session 0 is trying to establish the characters and the setting before you go to a legit session 1 of an RPG tabletop.
Yeah.
Would you all say it's fair?
I would definitely agree there. Yeah, it's like it's session 0 with really good setting awareness.
Yeah, you get the side characters, you get the dynamic, and the NPCs. Oh, Stone Fox is the emo girl I can get laid with. It is kind of like a video. It's like a visual novel. I guess it all ties back to Isekai.
Oh no,
it's a visual novel this entire time.
It is. On that top, do you guys have anything else? Like, I think we were kind of like, I don't want to be too much just like circling and bashing the pacing. I think we all kind of got our points out. I do have like a last closing question.
Yeah.
But I don't want to rush
No,
you guys.
go
if
for
you
it.
have more. Best girl.
Oh, V, easy. Don't even need to think about it.
Wow, what a felcher.
Really?
You're going for V?
Really?
You're V2?
Explain yourself. I go, you, Dave?
I'm going for the witch.
Yeah, Ursula.
You're going for Ursula?
Why the fuck not, dude?
Because you'll die.
Piss-maxing, the smell.
You are just like, if I die, I die. Like that's your take is if I die, I die. You're gonna Ivan Drago yourself.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll see you on the other side,
dude.
She's been run through, dude. How many cars has that bitch had? Green Beetle, the van guy.
I think I've been clear that crazy party slut never change is like that's don't marry him, but hang out with them in your 20s. That's
the unironic Kesha. The unironic Kesha.
I literally mentioned it on the other show. But unironic Kesha enjoyer. That's just how it is, man. And Steven's in his 20s. Like I was in my 20s too, and I knew how to seal the deal. So, yeah. Yeah,
she would be a fun time.
She's also not retarded, which is highly unusual. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but she'll bring her latest lay and make him call you a faggot while you deliver her books to her.
That will not happen.
Was brutal.
I will be the one calling Stephen Miller a faggot. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ursula. I have. That's every Zoomer's dream is to get date raped by a mommy witch GF.
Yeah, I picture like very goth. Very goth looking.
If this was the 90s, if this was in the 90s, she'd definitely be a goth. She'd be a scene queen goth girl.
Oh yeah, 70s is pre-goth, isn't it?
Way pre.
Sort of dirty hippie or something kind of look.
Yes, that's definitely the case.
I always kind of imagine. I imagine Diane as looking like Shelley Duvall.
I can see that,
and that does not do it for me. It's like too thin, eyes too big, like. That's how I imagine Diane.
And she has very petite breasts, by the way, Diane. If you notice when she's first introduced.
Oh, like what am I here for?
Yeah, but he still stares at me. That's how horny he is. Like, but actually, what do you say, Steve? Does he earn the rank of sensitive young man? Does Steven earn the rank of sensitive young man?
I mean, he might earn the rank of insensitive young man. Like, it's, he basically doesn't. He does not sufficiently react to a demon in his midst. He seems fairly oblivious to the advances of women.
Yeah, the death of a friend.
Yeah,
whatever. Did I look good during the speech?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but he is a reader.
Yeah.
Wait. You know what he is? You know what Steven is? He's Spencer played straight.
I don't think so.
I think he's too socialized. Actually,
he also doesn't
he couldn't handle those thoughts.
Yeah, Spencer for what it's worth has many of his own ideas. Steven does not have a lot of his own ideas. Steven kind of exists in reference to other things.
Mm-hmm. Well, the reason why I say he's Spencer played straight, he's like, our POV of him is what the unenlightened view Spencer in Nutcracker.
Oh,
basically.
Okay. I also don't agree with that because Steven is not a chud.
I'm not saying politically. I'm saying like, oh, he's obsessed with always making references. When he goes to like a restaurant with Randy, he names himself after an Abrahamic figure, so he even goes further back in the past. So he names himself after a Babylonian king for the order, just to like out Reddit reference Randy.
Well, also Spencer actually, despite his inner monologue being insane, Spencer is like so hyper aware of not trying to like offend people. Like if he was going to a restaurant, he would never annoy the waiter or
absolutely
try to flex on the waiter.
Exactly.
He would camouflage. He was like which is kind of like one of his things. So yeah, I just don't think Steven qualifies. He's a Redditor. I'm sorry, Gabe. You can't save him. He is what he is.
No.
He's a Redditor that offends old ladies at the fucking Waffle House or whatever it was, where he was like, "Oh, God damn it!" And some old lady looked me in the eye, and I said, "Dibitus ordum," and man, did she look stupid.
In your head, I'm the Chad.
I think I'm coming around to him being a sensitive young man, actually. Now that
he's a seed oils, like fedora tipper milady, like fat guy.
True. Well, he's super skinny though. He can fit in like a
that's because the seed oils haven't ruined his hormonal system yet.
Yeah, he's eating all that beef tallow while watching movies.
Yeah, he eats but he eats nothing but like Stay Puft Marshmallows and Mr. Pibb with like pre corn syrup Mr. Pibb. He's peating, actually. He's a peater because it's mostly sugar that he consumes.
Okay, now we're just rambling about food. Yes. Are we good? Have we shagged this duck?
I think we may have shagged the duck in record time.
Have we shagged it? I don't know. It's a novel of infinite questioning. It questions its own. It insists upon itself, but asks, "Do you agree with its own insistence?"
Fucking goddamn it! You quote Family Guy and dare to call anything else Reddit.
Listen, I'm toning myself down to the novel's level. All right.
You're addressing yourself to the material.
Yes. Listen, if he has to the most Reddit film of all time, Soylent Green. There's like 4 fucking Soylent Green references to a deeply, deeply overrated sci-fi film, which is only known for its one fucking like donkey kick to the teeth punchline at the end. Soylent Green is a mid-film, objectively speaking.
Shatner was not it's not the greatest actor ever. Yes.
And like in every Bethesda RPG, if you notice, there's always one side quest in that RPG where these unassuming people, they're actually cannibals. Every RPG has the whole fucking joke about the meat's actually people. It's the most overused trope ever. And fuck Soylent Green. And the Family Guy reference is much more palatable and intellectual, and it's a meme. It portrays something deeper. It's about art insisting upon itself. I mean, it's too important for its own look. It describes Peter Griffin is describing Soylent Green. Soylent Green takes itself far too seriously, and it sets up a punchline that thinks it can carry the entire film into actually something worth a damn. As one little trick, it's a one-trick pony of a film, Soylent Green. But the actual consistency of the plot, the themes, the mood, the characters does not bear up to that one trick. The one trick does not carry it enough to actually being a quality film. It insists upon itself. Peter Griffin's critique of The Godfather applies more to Soylent Green than it does to The Godfather.
In fact, you have to have a
definitely.
very high linguistic IQ to watch Family Guy. In order to get all the references, you need to
This has been a very reference heavy episode. Like even just us unintentionally to like old shit.
Yeah. Well, even me saying that is a reference to a fucking copy pasta. So, this is terrible. It's terrible. I mean, it means that our brains are completely overwhelmed by the meme plexes of the material we've consumed. So.
No, I was gonna say we're actually kind of like carny men. We're using the memes for our own goals. You know what I mean? We're getting the mimetic retards, the bearded ladies, the jerking off chimps, and we're pimping them out to our audience, our beautiful top tuggers who get front row seats.
That is our audience, actually, sir.
It's ma'am.
The jerking off chimps.
Ma'am, I was about to say, Soylent Green is made of people, and so is our subscriber base. So if you are listening to this, end of the episode, gang, you made it. Give yourself a pat on the back. Please consider rating a review on your platform of choice. Hit that bell, subscribe, all that shit. It really helps.
Subscribe. Tell your friends. Tell on your friends. Report them. Report them to us for not being word cells. If you have a friend who works in a STEM field, report them. Report them. If they don't read fiction for fun and semi-professionally, report them. We'll find them, and we'll seek justice for you.
Or like the famous Silence of the Lamb, fava beams and a calm Chianti.